So, PSX was a while back, and I had no idea it was taking place beforehand, so when I checked my subscription feed that day, I was like, what's going on here? Marvel vs. Capcom, Last of Us, Uncharted, Crash? Holy crap, a PlayStation conference went down today! For those of you who have been around since my early days, you may remember that I'm a fan of Sony games as well as Nintendo, and one of my favorite franchises to come from Sony would have to be Crash Bandicoot. I just love me a good platformer series, and Crash is right up there with some of my all-time favorites. Back at E3 2016, Crash made a surprise appearance during the Sony conference, and that was one of the highlights of the whole show for me. Crash resonates with a lot of people, both young and old, and it's really great to see that his first three games, widely considered to be some of his best, are being remastered from the ground up, going under the name the Sane Trilogy. This collection is being handled by the folks over at Vicarious Visions, and these guys do have a track record with Crash, though depending on your point of view, that may be a good or a bad thing. But remember when everyone thought that Double Helix was gonna botch Killer Instinct because of their checkered past? And look where the game is now! I say give them a fair shot, and with Crash, the groundwork is practically already set in place. They just have to make sure that they don't deviate too radically from it, and we'll have a solid remaster on our hands. But at the same time, if they can go above and beyond just remastering the game, then we'll have something even more special to look forward to. It's one thing to remake a game for a new audience, but if you can do it in a way that makes that game become a classic in its own right, that's even better. Think of things like Punch-Out for the Wii or DuckTales Remastered. Both are great remakes, but they added so much to the initial blueprints in ways that made them stand on their own legs. But with all that said, from the PSX footage shown, things are looking pretty good so far. After seeing some press footage and interviews, I know they know how important Crash is and are really striving to meet people's expectations. And if there's one thing that these guys have down to a T, it's gotta be the animation. I've never seen Crash look so beautifully expressive, and it's just so infectious. I can't stop smiling or mimicking his mannerisms. I especially like the results screen where Crash progressively falls to the ground from all the boxes falling on his head. I always imagined that's what would happen in my mind, and it's finally great to see that in motion. And when he collects a gem, I love how he just pulls it out from who knows where in his gullet. The animation has a lot of charm to it so far. The re-recorded voiceovers are also a nice treat, and we got a sneak peek of that in the opening cutscene for Crash 1. It's great to hear Jess Harnell and Lex Lang come back for Crash and Cortex respectively after last hearing them in Mind Over Mutant. Well, technically they showed up in Skylanders a while back, but you know what I mean, it's like they never even left. Hearing Maurice LaMarche as Embryo again is also great. He really nails the mad scientist voice. I mean, I would expect nothing less. For other characters, I'm hoping Clancy Brown shows up to reprise Uka Uka, but I'm not sure whether I'd have the original Aku Aku or the Greg Eagles variant. On that note, I'm also hoping that they found a character somewhere in the trilogy for Crash's original voice actor, Brendan O'Brien. Aside from Crash, he also played the aforementioned Aku Aku, Tiny the Tiger, Cortex in the first game, Engine, so maybe we'll hear him somewhere in here too. In the press release, they said every voice actor they got was involved with the Crash series at one point or another, so it'll be interesting to hear who gets what role. More on the opening cutscene, I just have to say they nailed it. It's a faithful reimagining of the original, with every angle and bit of dialogue wonderfully redone and or expanded on. Bonus points for making Crash run the right way out the window this time, and it's also pretty cool to see Tana punch out one of the mooks before getting kidnapped. As I said earlier, I was hoping that they'd add some extra stuff to the collection to make it stand out, and we're already seeing a bit of that. A more conventional save feature and checkpoint system have been confirmed for the first game, and it's a great step forward. They've already tackled the two biggest problems of Crash 1. They've also added time trials to all the games, which should increase the replay value even more. Though I dread the thought of getting platinum relics in every last level of the trilogy, and after looking at this screen, it seems like that's gonna be the case. It'd also be kinda cool if they brought back unfinished levels from the first game, like Stormy Ascent. Not necessary, but that would be a great little extra. And also maybe some levels they made their own as extra bonuses, if at all possible. Now, is there anything that concerns me about the game? Just one thing really. From what I've seen, the pace of the game looks a little bit slower than the original Crash games, which had a very Donkey Kong Country style of pace, quick and snappy. Even the Naughty Dog fellows said that's what they were aiming for with Crash, but hopefully that'll either be improved on or compensated for in some way. And according to the PlayStation blog, these guys have been playing the original games to the point where their controllers are breaking, so that makes me feel even better. Maybe I'm just seeing things, I don't know. All in all, I'm not entirely worried, because even though this trailer's pretty indicative of what the game will be, the thing we all gotta remember is that the game's not out yet. There's no definitive date yet aside from a 2017 release, so I just hope that they take the time they have to polish this trilogy as much as they can. And mind you, we only saw footage of the first best game so far. Given how much more the sequels offer, I'm even more excited to see what comes next. And if they really want to go the extra mile, they should do a marketing campaign with a guy in a Crash suit, and Japan should just embrace Crash again. Those commercials are one of a kind, and they would get a lot of people on board, I'm sure. Speaking of which, I hope the game does well upon release, because it might just spark interest in the Crash franchise again. And since the PS4 has such a huge install base, I'm sure tons of people will buy it if it's good. And the game's only gonna be $39.99, a bit more for Canadian folks, but it'll be a bargain too. Now, I go on about how much I love the original trilogy, but the truth is, I never grew up with these games. The first Crash game my brother and I ever owned was Crash of the Titans, then we played Wrath of Cortex, Nitro Kart, but I definitely knew who Crash was before then, and it's great to see him make a comeback after such a bumpy ride through the industry these last 20 years. And coupled with the new Ratchet & Clank game, I think I need to get myself a PS4 sometime in the future. So if anybody affiliated with this trilogy is watching, I just gotta say, you guys are doing a great job, and keep at it. Just keep at it. So those are my 2 cents on the Sane Trilogy announcement, and I'd like to hear what you guys think about it. You on board? You nervous at all? Leave a comment and let's get a civil discussion going. So with all that said, I'll see you guys next time. Things have been a bit hectic, but I advise you all to follow me on all my social media outlets for any future updates. If I don't see you guys before the new year, I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season, and don't drink too much eggnog. See ya!